Imagine waking up on a perfectly normal Monday morning. You check your phone, open your banking app, and instead of your usual balance, there's a transfer confirmation. No sender, no explanation. Just a staggering, completely unbelievable number sitting right there in your checking account. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to run through the ultimate thought experiment. You have 7 days, a ticking clock to spend every last cent of it, or you lose the whole thing. Now, I know what you're thinking. Sounds like an absolute dream, right? But as we're about to see, this dream quickly turns into a logistical, geopolitical, and frankly, systemic nightmare. Just look at those 12 zeros. $1 trillion. I mean, to put that sheer scale into perspective, if you had spent $1 million every single day since the year zero, you still wouldn't have spent $1 trillion today. And here it is, just landing squarely in your lap on a Monday. It's a scale of wealth that our human brains just aren't exactly wired to comprehend. Okay, let's dive into this game. You've got that ticking clock, but you also have some incredibly strict parameters. Rule 1. You have exactly 7 days to bring that balance to absolute zero. Rule 2. No donations. You can't just give it all away to charity or write a massive check to your family. It doesn't work like that. And Rule 3. Every single dollar must leave your account in exchange for legal ownership of actual goods, assets, or services. You have to literally buy things. But right out of the gate, there is a massive catch. You're fighting against the interest. That $1 trillion, it's earning money just by sitting there. Specifically, you are generating $136 million in interest every single day you don't move the money. So you aren't just trying to spend $1 trillion. You are running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, rudely adding millions to your pile while you're frantically trying to empty it. So, your first instinct is probably luxury, right? You just go completely wild. You buy a $300 million ranch in Aspen, a massive villa on the French Riviera. Boom, by noon, you've signed on 80 properties. You completely buy out Patek Philippe's private vault. You purchase every single Bugatti La Voiture Noire in existence, which takes you, 11 minutes a car? You buy 43 super yachts. But then reality hits. To maintain all of this, you suddenly require roughly 4,000 staff. You've basically become a massive maritime and property employer overnight. And the absolute most shocking part of all this? You've spent less than 3% of your money. So here is your brutal reality check at the end of day 2. You've blown through $25 billion. You own every toy, every private jet, and every private island you could possibly think of. But your balance is still sitting at a whopping $975 billion. Oh, and thanks to that interest treadmill we talked about, you actually accrued $272 million while you were busy buying those super yachts. You realize, very quickly, that buying things people want just isn't gonna cut it. You have to start buying the things the world actually runs on. Which brings us to the physical and logistical wall, covering days 3 and 4. Pivoting entirely away from luxury goods, you start buying up heavy infrastructure and raw commodities. Take gold, for instance. You call up the commodities desk and casually say you want $50 billion in physical bars. And the desk just goes dead quiet. Why? Well, because 50 billion represents roughly 15% of all the gold produced globally in an entire year. When you execute that single order, you literally move the global price of gold by 8%. Think about that. Just by deciding to buy, you've inadvertently made every single person on Earth who already owns gold slightly wealthier. The sheer weight of your capital is literally starting to warp the global market. Desperate to move much larger sums of money, you decide to tackle a noble cause, world hunger. Remember, the rules say you can't donate, but you can buy. So you make cash offers for the big 4 global grain traders, ADM, Bunge, Cargill, and Louis Dreyfus. These 4 companies move roughly 90% of everything the entire world eats. Within 48 hours, you are, on paper anyway, the sole landlord of the global calorie. You own the wheat, you own the corn, you own the soy. But here's exactly where the logistical wall stops you cold. You try to route all that food into regions with active food insecurity, and you completely fail. Because while you own the grain itself, you do not own the trucks, the roads, or the ports. Shipping coordinators start telling you about backlogs measured in months. State-owned ports go under immediate national security review the second your name appears on a filing. World hunger, as it turns out, was never a shortage of food. It's a shortage of functional supply chains and stable governments. So you didn't end hunger. Actually, you just made grain a whole lot more expensive for a week while it sits uselessly in your silos. So we finally arrive at the end of day 4. You've spent $120 billion, meaning you still have $880 billion left to go. The gap just isn't closing fast enough. And hey, remember those staff you needed? Your island management and your massive new infrastructure acquisitions mean you now need 6,000 staff just to keep the lights on. It's a total HR nightmare you still haven't solved. All of this costs time, and time is the absolute one thing you are running out of.
Let's move into day 5, the geopolitical wall.
You are getting desperate. The physical world is just entirely too slow for your wallet. So you decide to step into the realm of nations. And no joke, you tried to literally buy a country. You look at Argentina. They're carrying roughly $400 billion in national debt. You slide a cash offer across the table. You will completely clear their debt in exchange for special economic zone authority over the Port of Buenos Aires. The government obviously wants the deal, but within 4 hours, the IMF calls. Within 6 hours, the U.S. State Department is on the line. And they aren't calling to negotiate, they are calling to shut you down entirely. So the crucial point here is sovereignty. Money can easily buy a government's attention, for sure, but it absolutely cannot buy sovereignty. Why? Because sovereignty isn't something one government controls alone. Other nations get a vote. The international community will simply not allow a single private individual to hold absolute authority over a major South American trade hub. It's not going to happen. You try smaller nations, but the wall is exactly the same everywhere. Every single offer gets blocked before the ink can even dry. And so day 5 comes to an end. You've managed to spend $200 billion in total, leaving you with $800 billion left. And while you were busy arguing with international diplomats and getting shut down by global superpowers, your unspent money just kept chugging right along, happily generating another $136 million in interest, right on schedule. You have officially hit the geopolitical limit. So, what's next? Day 6. Breaking the stock market.
The countries are blocked. The physical goods are way too slow. So you pivot to public companies. After all, they don't need government approval, they just need a buyer. You bypass all the normal takeover procedures and unleash your remaining capital on the S&P 500, buying up shares at market price. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when you have infinite capital. The first $50 billion goes pretty smoothly, but then the trading algorithms start to notice someone is buying everything at literally any price and never selling. The S&P rockets up 4% in 40 minutes, then 9%, then 14%. You are no longer just buying stocks, you have literally become the price. Every single share costs more because your own massive orders are the news. You're paying what we could call a trillionaire premium, effectively making your money worth less the faster you try to spend it.
The sheer, unprecedented volume of your trades triggers a catastrophic domino effect across the globe. By mid-morning, the New York Stock Exchange circuit breakers trip, halting all trading. It resumes. You buy more. It halts again. Within 90 minutes, Europe follows suit. Euronext completely suspends trading across Paris, Amsterdam, and Brussels. Frankfurt shuts down entirely. Finally, the Tokyo Stock Exchange hits a precautionary pause, citing anomalous cross-border capital flows. You have literally broken 4 of the world's major stock exchanges before lunchtime. Regulators from 6 continents jump on an emergency call. The SEC issues a statement. And the one word they keep using to describe you? Systemic. What you are doing isn't technically illegal, but it is deeply, profoundly systemic. It's vital to understand the legal nuance here. They can't freeze your account because the money is legally yours, but they can, and they absolutely do, freeze the venues where your money moves. You are a hurricane, and they are simply closing the airports. Let's look at the totally chaotic aftermath of day 6. You somehow managed to shove $680 billion into equity positions before the emergency rule changes finally capped you. You now own controlling stakes in 340 companies, including 14 of the 30 largest corporations on Earth. And because of those massive price spikes you personally caused, your portfolio's paper value is a staggering $1.1 trillion. But here is the massive catch. That number is totally and completely meaningless. If you tried to sell even a fraction of those shares, the completely artificial price you created will collapse instantly. Which brings us to the final day. Day 7, the reality of extreme wealth. Suddenly, the clock runs out. The markets are closed. Your properties are a massive logistical nightmare. You check your balance one last time. $80 billion remaining. Despite destabilizing global markets, attempting to buy international seaports, and acquiring more luxury items than existed in recorded history, you failed the challenge. You simply ran out of open exchanges before you ran out of money. Oh, and that pesky interest? You earned roughly $720 million across the 7 days just for having the money in the first place. So, why did you fail? Basically, because extreme wealth hits a hard physical and legal limit. You discover that physical goods with immediate title transfer cap out at around $110 billion. Anything beyond that either takes time you just don't have, simply doesn't exist as private property you're legally allowed to buy, or the act of you buying it hyperinflates the price so fast that it undercuts the entire purchase. The world literally ran out of things to sell you fast enough.
Which leads us to this incredibly profound takeaway from the source material. The richest people alive don't spend their money because the supply runs out long before the money does. It completely shatters how we usually think about billionaires, doesn't it? They aren't just sitting on these dragons' hordes of cash refusing to buy things. They literally cannot spend it. The money that can't be spent just keeps earning and earning while they sleep.
And that leaves us with one final provocative question to really chew on as we wrap up this explainer. What does extreme wealth actually mean when the world literally runs out of things to sell you? If your money completely exceeds the physical limits of commerce, what is it really? Is it still money or just an unspendable metric of power? Think about that the next time you see a 12-figure net worth in the news. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and I'll see you in the next explainer.